St. Louis sports fans, go deeper with STL Sports Central Insiders. Get exclusive access to Bernie, Randy, Claves, Jamal Mayers, and more. Plus, your chance to watch a Blues game in the alumni box with Jamal himself. Monthly giveaways, Bernie's columns all week, and support for local sports media. Join now at stlsportscentral.com. Happy Thanksgiving to you as we welcome you on into Card Central 365. Joe Roderick, Ryan Fagan with you here as we have been doing all week long outside of the day Sonny Gray got traded. We are trying to find the best place for Nolan Arenado to be traded this offseason, knowing that it's a top priority for the St. Louis Cardinals. And Ryan, I'm glad we waited until until after Thanksgiving to do this one, because honestly, I mean, as we go through all of these, and I think we'll end up at 6 or 8 of these when it's all said and done. The Angels are the number one team I think Nolan Arenado ends up on. I know this is the fourth one of these that we're doing, but before the news of Anthony Rendon the other day, the Angels were always the team that I thought Nolan Arenado would end up on. So initial thoughts right off the bat, your initial thoughts of a possibility of Nolan Arenado being traded to the Los Angeles Angels.
I mean, my very first thought is this is not a scenario that would have ever played out last year, because when you think about Arenado and his potential landing spots, you have to think about the no trade clause, right? And his ability to veto pretty much anything he wants to veto. And the Angels are kind of a mess, right? They've been a mess for a long time. But it is a reflection of how much things have changed in St. Louis, where he said, okay, last year he's like, I don't want to go to these places. I don't want to even go to Houston, right? Like, I think he would love a scenario where he went to a team in 26 that was as good as Houston was going to be in 25, even with a little bit of a shake up there with Kyle Tucker getting traded. So that's the first thing I think of. But I mean, it makes sense. It makes probably more sense from the Angels' perspective in that they would love to get Nolan Arenado. Look, I mean, the Angels are desperate to bring some legitimacy to what they have because it's been such a disaster. And I think that Arenado can do that. Obviously, he's a California guy. One of the things that might convince him to approve any sort of deal is the trade that they just made, getting Grayson Rodriguez. The pitching has especially been a disaster over the last couple of years. So getting Rodriguez, a guy who, I mean, just a couple of years ago, I know he's had arm issues, but a couple of years ago, he was looked at like, if you were going to say who are the top 5 pitchers who are rookies now that could be Cy Young contenders in the AL in 3 years, Grayson Rodriguez would have been on anyone's top 5, top 10 for sure. So, they made that trade, which was seen as an aggressive trade. They traded Taylor Ward, so they need a bat in the lineup. I mean, they always need bats in the lineup, but it makes a lot of sense. Again, is it the contender that Arenado wants to go to? No, probably not. But at this point, because he's lost a lot of leverage, and I think he understands that his time in St. Louis is probably done, that's a team that he would agree to a trade to now, whereas he probably wouldn't have last year.
And when you mentioned saying how desperate they are and talking about just kind of there is no team, I think, and it's not even the team. It's not like ownership sitting there. We're not talking about Steve Cohen and the Mets, looking at how much he's spending on his team every year and saying my God, we need to win, or the Padres looking at a back-to-back Dodgers World Series champions and being like, nope, can't have that. We're not talking about that level of desperation with the Angels. With the Angels, it's more desperation for the people that are in charge right now and their contract situations. Their GM, Perry, is it? 1 year deal, 1 year left on his contract. And they go out this offseason, need a new manager. Ron Washington, health issues, had to step away, which at the time seemed like a home run hire and somebody that could change around the culture of the Angels. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. But Kurt Suzuki getting a 1 year deal. It is, hey, you two are locked into this. Go win and go show us now what you can do. There are going to, if they want to win and they want to take things seriously, there are going to be bigger moves than Grayson Rodriguez and Nolan Arenado. But those Nolan Arenado is a good centerpiece to kind of build around and say, hey, look, here's another veteran in the locker room with Mike Trout, two guys that, we'll use the word desperate again, are desperate to win something in their careers. And we're going to go and we're going to let them run everything and maybe go make another big splash in free agency or another trade. But I think these are two guys that you can get. And we haven't even gotten to the Rendon part of all this yet.
Right. And I think that's part of the equation too, when you're looking at teams that have interest, like, because I mean, you've seen like Red Sox fans, being like, is this the guy we want here if Bregman doesn't come back? Phillies fans saying Alec Boehm is better than Nolan Arenado right now, and all these things. And they're looking at as Arenado as a piece that may not be good enough at this point in his career to take them from playoff contender to World Series champion, right? Is he that guy that's going to help a team make that leap? I mean, maybe, not that he was 4 or 5 years ago, but if you're the Angels and you're an Angels fan and you are going to say, is this a guy who's going to be in the lineup, first of all, because Anthony Rendon has not been in the lineup forever, right? This is a guy that's going to help stop the black hole that third base has been for the last couple of years? Is this a guy who's going to help us get back to the point where they're a contender in contending for 500 in that conversation for the wild card for most of the year? Yeah, absolutely. He can be that guy. And I think that's why he makes a lot of sense here, because he doesn't have to be the savior, the guy that leads a team to the World Series. He has to be a guy that helps them be respectable. And he absolutely can be that guy. And it's a lineup, he could, whereas with other contenders, he might be like 6, 7, 8 in the lineups. I mean, with the Angels, he can be in the, not 3, 4 spot because they got Trout and Adele, but he can figure more dramatically into the top of the lineup.
I think in the lineup, I think in the lineup with the Angels, he would fit in similar to where he does with the Cardinals. Where, a lot of these other ones, we've talked Red Sox, we've talked Phillies, we've talked Yankees, where he is in that bottom third of the lineup, bottom half, bottom third of the lineup. And I do think but again, you could see another big splash that could move him down to that 6th spot in the lineup. But and you know what? If the shoulder is rehabbed, then he very well could still be a 5-hitter somewhere. So
I agree with that. I still think, like, I know he hasn't been what he had been. I don't think this isn't the end of Nolan Arenado. This isn't like 2025 isn't the season he say, okay, everybody knows this is the end, and then he hangs on for 2 more years. He still can be that impact guy. The problem from the Cardinals' perspective is I don't think anyone's going to give them trade value based on what he could have a bounce back year, as opposed to, in the Angels, we'll see. The Angels, part of their problem is they've never had a great farm system because they keep making bad decisions and they're not investing in the things they should. But I think it makes a lot of sense from the Angels' perspective.
We'll talk payroll and also potential trades that could be made in just a second. But hey, as we sit here on this Friday, are you looking ahead to what your first bet is going to be on Monday? Because that is when DraftKings Sportsbook is live in Missouri in the Show Me State on December 1st. The top-rated sportsbook app is going to finally be available to all of you in Missouri, St. Louis, all the surrounding areas, all the way out, all over the Show Me State. And new customers right now, sign up and score $300 in bonus bets when you bet $5 and use the promo code STL Sports. You can do that today. You can go and sign up for DraftKings, create your account on DraftKings today, and use code STL Sports. New customers, sign up today and score $300 in bonus bets once we go live on Monday, December 1st. That's code STL Sports. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable and expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
So let's talk about the financials of what this could look like with the Angels. The big news from this past week, we don't have details of it. Nothing is official yet, but Anthony Rendon is more than likely going to be bought out of his contract. Yeah. And the rumors say that he will retire from baseball. 29 years old, retiring from baseball. The dude just didn't care. He just said he didn't seem like he had fun playing baseball. It didn't seem, I mean, he saw this as a job, missed 75% of his games during his time with the Angels since 2020. It will go down as one of the worst contracts in all of professional sports when it's all said and done, when this buyout is complete. Right now, according to Spotrac, he is set to make around $39 million in 2026, $38 million base salary with a $600,000, close to $600 signing bonus. That makes him the highest paid player on the Angels, making about $1 million more than Mike Trout does every year. I will heed to you on the financials of this. So if they buy him out, like, do you have any perspective, any kind of idea of what a buyout like that would look like, and what does that do to overall payroll in MLB?
Yeah, it's not something that we see very often. First of all, just not to be a actually guy, but he's 35 now, right? He was 29 when he signed that deal.
Was he? I thought I saw.
Yeah, no, he was 29. His last year with the Nats was 29 when he.
Okay, no, you're fine. No, I appreciate that. I don't know where I saw 29 then when I was looking at this. So yeah,
I think it's because he was 29 when he signed the deal with the Angels. But yeah, I mean, it's a scenario where even when he was with Washington,
that's exactly the page I was on. I saw age, it said at signing. So yes, you are. Yes.
So he was Anthony Rendon. It's crazy, not to kind of go back into his. He was one of the more consistent players in baseball for a long time. And the thing that was always weird about him is, like, other guys live, eat, sleep, everything baseball. That was never Anthony Rendon's thing. He was open about saying, like, he didn't like dealing with media, which is fine, whatever. But he would say, like, this is my job, right? This is what I do to make money, to support my family. It is not who I am. And you just rarely ever hear that kind of, I mean, I don't even want to say blatant honesty or brutal honesty, because I don't think many baseball players feel that way, right? But that's how talented he was. That's how good he was. And I mean, the Nationals don't win the 2019 World Series without him. He was incredible through the whole year. I mean, he had a run where he had moved into that perennial MVP candidate, and I think when the Angels signed him to that contract, people in baseball thought, wow, that's a lot of money, but nobody thought it was insane because of how consistent he was. He was great in the field. He was great at the plate. He just had, that knack for coming up big at the plate in clutch moments. And he was all of these things. And it felt like a little bit of an overpay, but not like, oh my gosh, what in the world are they doing? Like some of the contracts we see. So, I mean, it's, if this all gets wrapped up, it'll be the end of a chapter. I'm not exactly sure how it works with the salary cap. I mean, and I doubt.
We're not having. I'm just talking. Just the overall payroll that the Angels would have.
They won't get much of a break, because all Anthony Rendon has to say is, "I'm hurt. I'm going to stick around," right? And there's nothing they can do, and he'll earn every penny that way. So I mean, they might get a little bit of financial relief, but I doubt it'll be much.
Whatever insurance, they're getting, and we know Artie Moreno is one of the cheapest owners in baseball.
Going back to that comment about not doing everything right in terms of building a farm system and all that, yes.
So it's just that's going to be the big question, because we saw earlier this week Chaim Bloom making the trade, the Cardinals eating $20 million of the Sonny Gray contract, but getting two players back, one high-level prospect, one major league ready arm. And I think a lot of people were like, whoa, okay, like, if that's what we're doing here, I'm on board with this rebuild. This isn't just the DeWitts trying to save a buck. They are actually looking to compete sooner rather than later with all of this. So I think that was a good first move to kind of show people what we're what we're in for this offseason. So to see that and know that that's going to be the biggest hurdle with this move here, with anything to see how much financial flexibility it might open up. And again, if the Angels want to compete, they're going to go out there and make a move, and going out and getting Nolan Arenado and whatever kind of return there is, that there's other options out there. There's other third base options out there. This just seems like one where both sides are looking to gain something from it, and the partnership could be there.
Yeah. And I think when you look at the return that what they traded to get Grayson Rodriguez and Taylor Ward, he was a guy who was short on club control, but had developed into a really good offensive player. So it shows that they're not afraid to take somebody off of their roster that could make an impact. And that's why I'm really curious to see how the Cardinals approach trading Arenado and what kind of return they get. Are they looking, whereas Sonny Gray, there was a need in the rotation, right? So to get Fitz back in that spot, they have somebody they can plug in. Where the need at the major league level for a replacement in Arenado's spot is not there, because they have internal options that can go there. So maybe with Arenado, they're looking to do something that is makes an impact on big league club a year or two from now. I can see that being more of a priority with Arenado than it is Gray, just because of the positions they play and kind of how the roster is set up right now.
Looking at the prospects, you've mentioned it a couple times, the mess of a farm system that the Angels have.
It's not great.
They have 2 guys in the top 100 right now on the MLB pipeline list. They have 0 guys in the top 90.
Yeah, it's not great.
They have number 91, Tyler Bremer.
Let's be honest. The Cardinals aren't getting a top 100 prospect for Nolan Arenado, which is another reason that the Angels make sense.
91 and 96 is what you're looking at. And
they're probably not giving away their top 2 prospects. So it would be some sort of scenario, maybe a guy who's in the bigs and a lower level guy. And that's, at this point, if you're the Cardinals, it's what needs to happen, right? It's what needs to happen. Things need to move on. And I think if you're a Cardinals fan, it was encouraging how quickly they made the move with Sonny Gray, because it's Chaim Bloom saying, hey, I know what we need to do. I'm not going to be caught up in these things. I'm going to make moves I'm not quickly for the sake of being quick, but quick because then you can do the other things, because he's got a lot of things he wants to accomplish this offseason. So, and I think Arenado getting moved sooner. And I know there's so much of a market. There are a lot of third basemen available, whether it's free agents or trade. So I think, again, another reason the Angels make sense is because they're not necessarily competing at the top of that third baseman market, right? They're not waiting to see where Alec Bregman signs before they go out and make a secondary move. So I think, again, that's why Arenado makes just a ton of sense for the Angels.
Let us know your thoughts on a potential trade of Nolan Arenado to the Angels, what you'd like to see in return for that. If you think it's even a possibility of Nolan Arenado heading back to California, where he's from, to play in SoCal for a team like the Angels, and waive his no trade clause. Let us know in the comments as we kind of sort things through and find the best landing spot for the Cardinal future Hall of Fame third baseman. Until next time, he's Ryan Fagan. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Card Central 365, brought to you by DraftKings, where the crown is yours.